Thank you. This evening is sponsored by both the East Haddam Democratic and East Haddam Republican Town Committees. I would like to thank party chairs Susan Kinsman and Brian Goff for putting this debate together. I would also like to thank the high school for the use of this wonderful space. The purpose tonight is to hear the views of the candidates on local issues in a fair, informative, and respectful forum. The audience is instructed to listen and not be disrupted. Please hold your applause until I request it at the end of the evening. Questions were solicited in advance by both parties. Both candidates have seen the questions that have been submitted. However, the questions will be drawn at random. They're in here. There are 21 questions in this container. No further questions will be asked after 7:50 p.m., allowing time for closing remarks. The candidates are allowed to use notes. They are not allowed to use cell phones or other electronic devices. The smoother the forum progresses, the more questions we will get through. Again, please hold applause until it is requested. Disruptive behavior will not be tolerated. Each candidate will be given 3 minutes for an opening statement and 2 minutes for a closing statement. Irene will go first, as was determined by a coin toss a minute ago. Tanya will deliver her closing statements first. 21 questions were submitted and will be drawn randomly. We will alter between the candidates. The candidates that speaks first will have 2 minutes to answer the question. The other candidate will have 1 minute to answer the question and/or rebut. I'm thankful for both Pete Gobert and Joe Bakari, who are serving as our timekeepers this evening. Pete will alert the candidates when there is 20 seconds remaining and when there is 10 seconds remaining. Joe will give the candidate a red or green sign signaling when the candidate must stop or can speak. I'm going to read the bio that was prepared by Irene, as she's going to be the first one to give her remarks. Irene Haynes is currently serving as First Selectwoman. She also serves as the 34th District State Representative in the Connecticut General Assembly for the past 5 years. Prior to serving as First Selectman, she worked as the EDC Coordinator with East Haddam's Economic Development Commission. She has held numerous positions in town, such as past President of the East Haddam Business Association, where she created the first ever Taste of East Haddam. She also helped create the East Haddam News, which came out of a business forum she conducted. She's worked as a scenic painter with Goodspeed Musicals and even helped take care of the rescue horses and animals for Ray of Light Farm. She served as the past president of the Nathan Hale Ray Middle School Principals Advisory Council, helped with Hale Ray Music Boosters, was the Chatham Service Unit Manager for Girl Scouts of Connecticut, Girl Scout leader, and coached children's soccer here in town. She also served as the Connecticut Valley Girl Scout canoe coach for many years. In her professional life, Irene has spent over 30 years in the insurance and finance industries. She's a licensed insurance agent and a certified personnel consultant. She's most proud of her life here in East Haddam, raising her 2 daughters, Katie and Bridget, with her husband Steve of almost 30 years. Bridget and Katie, educated here in East Haddam Public Schools, are now professionals in their own right, a director of orchestra at Farmington High School, and a sales marketing manager for Blue Nose Yachts in Newport. They've become farmers here in East Haddam, raising backyard chickens and beef cattle. Irene and her family are avid boaters and plan to retire someday cruising the world.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you for coming.
Introduce both of you, and then I'm going to give the floor. I'm sorry. Sorry, I didn't specify enough. Tanya Burgoyne here grew up in Haddam. She's been a resident of East Haddam for 15 years. With her husband Brian, Tanya lives in the Haddam section of town. Her roots here are deep. Her maternal great-grandmother was born in Millington, and her direct lineage includes the Trowbridge, Bartman, Wiley, and Bogue families, as well as members of the indigenous Blackneck tribe. Tanya has experience in sales and management, town government, community engagement, staff coordination, and interagency collaboration, getting people to work together. She is a board member of the Friends of Rathbun Library, member of the East Haddam Sustainability Team, co-founder and president of the Friends of Macamuta State Park, and board members of the Friends of Connecticut State Parks. She's currently chairman of the Wildlife Committee for the Connecticut chapter of the Sierra Club and has been a state licensed wildlife rehabilitator since 1998. Welcome to both our candidates. have 3 minutes for your opening statement. The timekeeper shall start the clock now.
Thank you, sorry about that. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for being here tonight. Since taking office in November of 2021 and under my leadership, we have made significant strides in preparing for East Haddam's future. Your vote this November will allow us to build upon our progress and ensure the continued prosperity of our community. Here are some key achievements and initiatives we've undertaken. Supporting our vulnerable citizens, we've provided extended tax relief to our elderly and disabled citizens, demonstrating our commitment and the well-being of all our residents. Additionally, we are fostering partnerships with youth and family services and other social services to offer more holistic and wraparound services for our residents. We've done public safety enhancements in addressing public safety concerns. We've rapidly expanded police coverage, addressing theft and vandalism. We've worked diligently to address DUI incidents, speeding, and overall crime rates with grants for increased coverage. Notably, we've acquired a new police boat without any additional burden on the taxpayers. We've also secured a $1 million grant to procure the frontline firefighting and rescue apparatus, the Quint. AEDs have been installed in all our public buildings to enhance safety and recently trained our library staff to use them. And another Lucas device with the thanks of a generous support from the Consumers Union has been placed in our ambulances. We've done infrastructure and road improvements. We have restored miles of roads and added new sidewalks to enhance our town's infrastructure. Additionally, a newly established partnership with Connecticut DOT has successfully led to improvements on our state roads, particularly addressing drainage issues to mitigate icy spots. We have fiscal responsibility as our commitment to the efficiency is evident in our introduction of zero-based budgeting 2 years ago. During the recent challenging budget season, we successfully reduced expenses by over $500,000, while maintaining all town services. We've also increased transparency and accountability in cash handling and check issuing and signing procedures by our newly elected treasurer, Brian Goff. Grant success, we're proud to announce that we've been awarded $2.6 million in grant money in addition to the ARPA funds. These funds have supported various programs, including Parks and Rec, library initiatives, senior meals, safety equipment, public safety equipment and personnel, document and cemetery preservation, our high school track, and more, all without additional burden to the taxpayers. We've dedicated to furthering economic development in town. The East Haddam Village and Moody's. The redevelopment agency is actively assessing brownfields with the assistance of received grant funding. We've also explored TIF financing opportunities to save money for our residents. Zoning changes and make Moody's and a DOT traffic study have been done to create a more full-service pedestrian-friendly environment. We've also done sustainability initiatives. Our commitment to sustainability is demonstrated through the future installation of solar panels on our municipal office complex, our energy efficient upgrades to our town buildings, removing buried oil tanks.
3 minutes.
Thanks, sorry.
And Tanya, you have 3 minutes.
I am not running for my own gain of ego. I don't want to be a senator. I don't want to be the governor. I want to work in and for East Haddam because I truly love this town. I'm dedicated to moving our town forward sensibly and realistically. I will be solely focused on the needs of East Haddam now and for the future. I will create a welcoming atmosphere that encourages discourse without sowing discord. I will bring people together to solve problems. I believe in being of service, and I have a decades-long background in volunteerism, organization, and conservation work. Through my combined experience in many different sectors, I've learned the skills necessary to be an effective leader. I have proven myself to be dedicated, thoughtful, objective, and when necessary, tenacious. Above all, I believe that by building relationships and finding common ground, we can solve problems and reach lasting solutions together. So I will build a coalition of citizens and stakeholders who will listen to the concerns of our community with empathy and respect and make sure that all individuals are given the opportunity to participate and be heard. I will work to ensure that all funds are being spent efficiently without waste or redundancy while still maintaining our critical services for our citizens, especially our students and our seniors. I will foster responsible economic development that is in keeping with the character of our town to lessen the tax burden on our homeowners. I will leverage our town's many unique assets to develop a thriving community while maintaining a rural character and quality of life. Transparent and fiscally sound policies will keep us safe, strengthen our schools, value our natural treasures, and maintain our town's character while fostering economic growth. By broadening our tax base to balance our budget, providing consistent services to keep our citizens safe and our town functioning efficiently, and protecting our town's character and the environment that surrounds us, we will create a vibrant town for residents and visitors alike. I am honest, hardworking, and passionate about this town. I don't want to change East Haddam. I want East Haddam to thrive. I intend to retire right here and draw my last breath in my lovely home with my dogs and my ducks and my cats and my husband and my goats. And in order for East Haddam to thrive, we need leadership that is fair, frugal, and focused on our future. We need a full-time leader. East Haddam needs full-time time.
Thank you. Now it's time for questions. As I mentioned before, the candidates have seen the questions, but they're all been random. They don't know where order anything will come in. Tanya will go first. And we'll have 2 minutes on the clock. Tanya, if you received $1 million grant to use for the town in any way you wanted, what would you do with it and why?
I honestly don't know. And I was actually in favor of this question being asked, and then I'm not afraid to say I don't know, because what I can say is I would assess all of the needs of East Haddam. I mean, let's face it, $1 million sounds like a big number, but when we're talking about capital projects and stuff, it's not going to build a new library or a new school or anything like that. So we would have to carefully assess where that $1 million could be best spent in the town. And honestly, right now, because I am not currently the first selectman, I do not know the answer to that question, but I know that it would be a carefully considered process. I would do all the research, I would bring people together, and I would address the needs of the town, and that's where I would start. And once that was done, we would figure out what the best, most responsible use of that $1 million would be.
Irene, you have 1 minute to rebut or answer the question.
Thank you, and it's a good question. The one thing that I think is most important is people do need to realize that, as Tanya said, $1 million is not a lot of money, especially when the town is looking at future projects, and we are looking at a lot of future projects coming forward. So, being the fiscal conservative that I am, I would think that I would put the $1 million toward one of those projects that are currently on our docket and reduce the tax burden of the town. I'd love to, buy a playground or put new docks in or something that, we could have an ad hoc meeting and discuss where's the best use of that money. But I think reducing our tax burden is what everybody needs right now, and that's what I would do with the grant.
Irene will answer the next question first. Are you in favor of the municipal broadband initiative and why?
I absolutely am for the municipal broadband, and actually I'm very excited to see that it's coming through the way it is. When I was elected, we started the feasibility study group, and through that we realized that it is definitely something that we're pursuing, and now that's where we're at now with this implementation committee that we formed. The implementation committee, part of it is to bring this initiative to all of you and to have meetings. We have them scheduled for this coming Thursday at the municipal office complex. There's going to be one at 10 a.m. for those who either work second shift or would like to come at 10 a.m. in the morning. We have one at noon to help any area businesses, but anybody can come to any meeting, whatever works for you. But there's a lunch and learn at noontime for businesses. We found that businesses tend to, they have lots going on during the day, in the morning and the afternoon, so sometimes they can scoot out at lunchtime. So we're leaving it open for them to come to that one. We'll have some discussion there specifically geared toward the businesses. And then there's a 7 o'clock meeting that evening, and they're all being held at the municipal office complex, rooms 1 and 2. They will be live streamed, they will be recorded, and there will be question and answer. We do have East Haddam Fiber, and they are, it's a website you can go to now. There's a frequently asked questions page, but we will be answering questions that day as well, and we'll obviously post any new questions that are new to the list on the website for future perusing of the website. So broadband puts us on the map as a forward-thinking town. I think it will increase our people who are interested in the business, business community, as well as new residents. And during COVID, we know that it was very hard for all those students to get on the website at the same time. So we're looking forward to it, and we hope that you all come in and ask all your questions, and we want all kinds of participation. So thank you. Great question.
Tanya, you have a minute.
I would actually like to thank Irene and the current administration for picking up the broadband initiative that was actually initiated by the previous administration under Rob Smith, who's the one who actually started it. So I want to thank her because I do think that broadband is incredibly important. It will make our town more attractive to the responsible development. It will make our town more attractive to younger residents. It will offer better opportunities for our students and our businesses. And it will help our residents lower their costs at home because it'll be cheaper than Comcast upfront.
Go next. This question is first for Tanya. Do you support a referendum for any redevelopment plan for East Haddam Village, including whether to sell or retain ownership of the land?
I absolutely support a referendum for the redevelopment plan for the East Haddam Village. I think it's vitally important to involve the public because it's town land, which means it's public land. It's not my land. It's everybody's land. So we can't make a decision without offering people the opportunity to have a say in what they feel should be done with that land. So I don't see any way in which redevelopment can be responsibly done without having a referendum. The other benefit of a referendum is that when you allow people to have a voice and have a say in what happens next, they'll feel more connected to the project overall. People will support what they helped to create. So if we don't give them the opportunity to have a voice in the creation, we can't then expect the community to support the project.
I believe you have a minute.
Okay. Yes, so I absolutely agree with Tanya 100%. Yes, we should have a referendum in regards to any project that comes through the redevelopment area. It's also written in the statute that there has to be a referendum. And as a matter of fact, in the statute, there's written several times where it's going to come in front of the public, and the public are going to be able to voice their opinion. So looking forward to those opinions, looking forward to sharing that when we get to that stage. The redevelopment agency, I believe, is meeting every third Thursday of the month these days. And I encourage any of you and all of you to go on the website. You can look up the past meetings and hear what they've been talking about. But those are open to the public, and you should all go to them so they can see what's going on. But yes, definitely, once we get to a point where we have a plan, it will be going through a number of different meetings and a number of different votes.
We will answer this next question first. What is your plan to give residents a greater voice in the decision-making process of our town?
So, thank you for the question. One of the things that we have done in my administration is we've actually made the website more mobile friendly because people are on their phones. They're not home, they're not able to check on their computer, so they're on their phone and they can look up meetings, they can look up agendas, they can look up minutes, they can see YouTube videos. So we do all that already. We actually, when you go to a cost meeting or CCM meeting, these are meetings where multiple towns throughout the state of Connecticut come together on various subjects. You find that we do a lot more here in regards to sharing the information than other towns do. A lot of towns don't even have YouTube. They don't put it up there and it's not live. So that's one of the things that we do. We also started a First Selectman Facebook page because we find that there's a lot of people on Facebook looking for information, so we do that as well. We've also finally gotten the paper liking the idea of putting in a First Selectman from the desk up just to give a brief summary of what happened at the previous Board of Selectmen meeting, so that people can understand what kind of business is moving through town. So we've done a lot to create various places where you can find information about what's going on through town. But we do ask that you come to the meetings, or you at least go to the website and find these various meetings and various agendas so that you understand what's going on as well. It's a team sport here. It is a town run by statute, which means it's run by the people. So you all have a voice, and you all can join in the fun. So I encourage you all to come to the meetings. We'd love to have you, especially during budget season. As we're going through each budget, each department, you can have a say for that department, and it's on the website with a schedule. Perfect.
Right as this time.
Okay, well, Irene has said that, she just said that she would listen to the townspeople in budget meetings and stuff, but we know that that didn't happen this last round. So it's a nice thing to say, but it has to actually happen in real time. So there has to be an atmosphere where people feel like their voice will be heard, to encourage them to get involved in the decision-making of the town. If they feel like they're going to be dismissed, disrespected, or just left out of the conversation, they have no incentive to get involved in the decision-making process. So there has to be openness, there has to be accessibility of information, and there has to be respect for the comments that are given.
This next question, we'll start with Tanya. What's your goal for East Haddam schools, and how are you going to accomplish it?
My goal for East Haddam schools is to create the best opportunities that we possibly can for our students. And to do that, we need to trust and support the members of the Board of Education. This is their field of expertise. I am not an educator. I have not studied the latest, best ways to educate people, so that is why we have a Board of Education. So it's incumbent upon the First Selectman to trust and support the Board of Education, and in doing so, they must attend meetings regularly. They have to be involved in the process. They have to understand the needs of the Board of Education when they're creating the budget. But I have to say, I don't have kids in the school system, but I have done some research, and by all accounts, while we do have issues here with our schools have a very good rating and a very low teacher-to-student ratio. So I want to thank everyone involved in teaching our children, the children of East Haddam. Of course, again, there are things that we can improve and do better. There always are, and that's where it falls to the Board of Education. We need to trust and support that they are going to make the best decisions based on their knowledge for the students of East Haddam.
Irene, you have 1 minute.
Thank you, and I agree with Tanya. To collaborate with the schools, to support our students and our staff and our administration is key and important. And that is one thing that I've always tried to do. I'm a huge education supporter. My children went through the East Haddam school system. I was very involved in the schools, and my kids were in there, and I appreciate everything that was done, and I think they did a great job. So I agree with Tanya in that our schools are excellent. One of the things that I think is important for our schools is that as the First Selectman, you can support them, be supportive of their initiatives, know what's going on, go to concerts, go to games, see what's going on with the sports teams. Also bring opportunities, and as state rep, I've been able to bring some opportunities to our schools, including hosting a Connecticut trades, building trades, and American Bridge to our schools. It was great. It was a great day for the kids to learn more about trades.
Irene will answer this question first. If elected, what 3 steps would you take to put our town on a firmer financial footing?
So the first thing I do is hire a finance director. Actually, I'm hoping that we can get a finance director in here before I'm no longer in office. But we are losing our finance director. He's working with us right now part-time, coming in 1 day a week, and he's always available for questions, but right now we're operating again without a finance director. Ensure our continued healthy fund balance. We have very healthy fund balance in East Haddam, and it creates our AA+ bond rating, which means when we do borrow money, we borrow it at a lower rate. So that is something that's key, that we always have to do, because we really are on good financial footing right now. And also, the zero-based budgeting that I instituted when I first became elected is something that we will continue working with. What zero-based budgeting means is that when somebody comes in, unless there's a contract, if there's a contract and you have to pay a certain amount of money for that contract in the upcoming year, that goes on the list first, and then you add to it. You don't look at last year's budget and add 10%. That's not what's happening here in town. So we are building budgets from zero, and it's a good fiscal way in which to build the budget, and that way we're not overspending or getting rid of things that we haven't spent. So we're not keeping unused portions of funds and hoping that we can just add to it. So those are 3 things that I would do.
Tanya, you have 1 minute.
So we are actually, as Irene pointed out, we actually do have a AAA+ rating. The highest rating that is available is, I'm sorry, we have a AA+ rating. The highest rating available is AAA, and under the administration previous to Irene, we were actually, the town was poised to get that. That actually got a couple of awards for their financial and fiscal awareness. So I would want to keep that going, of course, and the best way to do that is to eliminate wasteful spending and make sure that we are not spending our money foolishly.
Tanya will answer this question first. What can be done to keep young people in our community, and how can we attract them?
So the way to keep young people in our community is to make sure that those young people are able to afford to live in our community. And right now, that is one of the biggest challenges facing East Haddam. There are not available housing situations for the younger people who have maybe just gotten out of college and aren't in a position yet to buy a home. There's really very little place for them to be able to live here in East Haddam. So we have to create better housing options for them, but we also have to make sure that folks who do own their homes are able to afford to stay in East Haddam and not overburdened by their tax bills when they come in the mail, and they have to start thinking about maybe they have to leave the house that they've lived in and raised their families in and raise their pets in their gardens, and now 40 years later they have to leave because they can no longer afford to stay in East Haddam. So we absolutely have to make sure that people can afford to live in East Haddam, including our young people. And the broadband initiative will attract more young people. A lot of those people, a lot of that demographic work from home. They are, on their computers a lot. Some of them have side enterprises, so that broadband is going to help make East Haddam more attractive to them. Also will make things more affordable, and we need to create more walkable, bikeable commercial centers in downtown and in Ludus, because they don't want to have to drive.
Thank you. The more affordable housing is one that is on my list. We need jobs, so we need to do some kind of development work, sustainable development, that we can increase the job market here in East Haddam. To Tanya's point, they have to drive out of town to get a job. One of the things that I think we need to do is just engage them more. There's a young gentleman that I met years ago here in town who absolutely loves East Haddam, and he's created a page on Instagram called East Haddam, Connecticut. And it's full of all the things that he's so grateful for. I talk to him all the time, because this is what we have to do, is we have to engage with them. We have to communicate with them what are good things in town, how are things, what's available for them. What brought me here 40 years ago was my husband and I mountain biked. We have an outdoor playground here, we have disc golf. We have so many things for these kids to love and enjoy and live here and be out in the open and fresh air. So that's what I would do, is I would encourage young kids to see what's here that we have to offer.
This next question, Irene will go first. This falls with the last question, incidentally. What's more important right now, building new homes and commercial space, or rehabbing, expanding, better utilizing our existing homes and storefronts?
You're first, sorry. The answer would be both. I think that right now, rehabbing, I think expanding and better utilizing some of our properties that we have currently is a great idea. If the owner is equipped, if the owner is in a position of means and can do that work, then it's up to that owner to take care of that property and rehab it. But if the owner is not available or able to, or doesn't have the means to do it, we can't force them to do it. Okay, so some of these properties that we would love to have been developed by now, unfortunately, we're waiting on the owners of those properties. At the same time, if there is somebody who's inclined that doesn't necessarily own something in town, but would like to, if there's something for sale and then they rehab it, that's great. We're actually seeing that right now at Society Hall. If anybody has noticed, there is all kinds of activity going on. And it's wonderful, and it's wonderful to see. And he is a developer from Guilford, and he knows other developers, and is already having conversations about other properties in our village. So this is the kind of thing that we need, but we can't force the current owners to do something with their properties. That's why sometimes new properties have to be formed, made, and created. So who has means and who can do the work, we would love to have them, we'd love to work with them, and I think it's important to do both because they feed off each other. Once we see activity, there'll be more activity. So I'm really looking forward to watching what's happening in the village, and go check it out. There were painters up on ladders today. It was great. It was great to see some progress.
Tanya, you have 1 minute.
I do agree with Irene that it has to be a balance of both, but I do need to point out that if people have to be in a position of means, as she just said, to rehab their house, and their tax burden is so high that they don't know how they're even going to pay their tax bill, there's obviously no way that they can think about rehabbing their home or business or doing anything with it. So again, we need to reduce the tax burden on our residential homeowners, and that will allow them to have the means to do what they need to do to rehab their homes.
This one's for Tanya first. If someone came to you with a proposal to build a new piece of public infrastructure, road, bridge, etc., how would you evaluate whether or not that project was worth implementing?
Well, the very first thing you would have to do when considering any proposal for any sort of public infrastructure is to do a cost-benefit analysis. You have to make sure that whatever the costs are, the benefit will be worth it long-term. You also have to study the short and long-term impacts of that project on public safety, on the environment, on the health and the well-being of our community. And in order to do that, you need to talk to the boards and the commissions in town to see what their thoughts are, what their needs are. You need to, again, consult with people of town to see what they feel is necessary and important to town. There's a lot of things that maybe sound good on paper, but when you start peeling back the layers, you realize that they're not cost effective, or the long-term impact is really just not worth the short-term convenience. So you really need to do the research first. It needs to be well studied. It's not something that you can just jump into because you get excited about something new. Everybody loves to have new things, but we want those new things to last, and we want those things to work for us in the long run so that we're not constantly having to face situations where we need to build new over and over and over again, because the last new thing we built wasn't in it for the long haul.
Irene, you have 1 minute.
Thank you. I agree with Tanya. It's absolutely a collaborative effort. We have land use, we have public works, we have planning and zoning committees. These are all the people that would vet these projects. As Tanya mentioned the cost of benefit analysis through the vetting and the planning. Once that's in place, it has to come to the town, and the town meeting will, ask questions, and it has to go to, first we'll go to a hearing, then we'll go to a town meeting, and then if we have to go to referendum, that would happen. So because we're a state statute town, all of those things have to happen. It has to be a collective effort.
This next question, Irene will go first. What do you see as the biggest challenge East Haddam is facing, and how would you address it?
So the biggest challenges that East Haddam has going forward is we have some real big projects coming up. And knowing that we just came through a very tenuous budgeting, we're gonna have a tough time trying to figure out how to pay for all of these things. But we do have a firehouse that is currently in very disrepair, that's gonna be falling on $1 million worth of apparatus that we're gonna have to address. We currently have some repairs going on to at least shore it up for now. But we have a contingency plan in place, as we did last year, that when we get heavy snows, that equipment is gonna be moved out of that firehouse and moved into the public works garage because of the tenuous nature of the structure that's over at Company 2. So that's one of the things. We have HVAC in our schools. This is something that right now Hartford is not mandating, but the writing is on the wall, and these are things that we have to do in our schools are aging. I can't even believe the middle school is almost 20 years old. And my name and my kids' names are on one of the beams when it went up. I can't believe it's happened. That's how long it's been. But the HVAC needs to be repaired in all 3 schools, so that is something that we're going to have to tackle. And we have open space property that's waiting in the wings to be purchased, and we have to talk about that one, as well as an increase in open space money put aside. And we're talking about a new library. So these are big projects coming, and we have to determine how to pay for them. So honestly, that's going to be our biggest challenge going forward. And we're going to have to take them one at a time and do what we just mentioned in the last question about a cost needs analysis and how we're going to make it work.
Tanya, you have 1 minute to respond.
I see the biggest challenge that East Haddam is facing a little bit differently than my opponent. Again, I think that lowering the tax burden so that people can afford to live in East Haddam, so that East Haddam is attractive to residents and to responsible development is our biggest challenge. But the real hurdle is that, frankly, our current leadership, from what I have seen, lacks transparency and long-term vision, and without that, we're not going to be able to successfully address any of our issues. There's no reason, that a school should need to be replaced every 20 years. It's a huge capital project.
Tanya will go first on this next question. Why are you qualified to be first selectman, and how would you describe your leadership style?
Well, I think for me, my biggest qualification is that I am 100% or will be 100% dedicated to East Haddam and to being their first selectman. It will be my only job, and I will be dedicated to doing it to the best of my ability, as my focus will not be drawn away by other obligations or responsibilities. I would describe my leadership style as being collaborative. That's the most important thing. I firmly believe in seeking out the people who know the answers, getting the answers, getting the stakeholders involved, finding the common ground, and building from the bottom up, not from the top down. I believe that East Haddam has a lot of things that really require 100% focus and attention. And again, I think it's hard to do that when you have 2 jobs and you have 2 sets of responsibilities, one of which draws you away from the town of East Haddam on a regular basis.
I do feel that I'm qualified to be your first selectman because I've been doing it for the past 2 years and loved every minute of it. I also feel that I have a lot of experience with management, with marketing, with administrative expertise. I I've been a member and co-founder of the East Haddam News, past president of the EHBA. I've been in town for 27 plus years. I've worked in the schools. I am a huge collaborator with a lot of different people. Like to get a lot of people around the table and answer questions and figure out the best way forward. And as state rep, I will answer this question again and again because I keep answering this question, but I serve East Haddam up in Hartford. And one of the things that these two jobs have done for me is actually made me both a better first selectman and a better state rep. And the reason that happens is because I'm advocating for our town, East Haddam, on every level I can. So I think it's a great idea to have your state rep and your first selectman the same person, because all we're doing is working for East Haddam, and that's it.
Irene will go first on this next question. What would you do to fix Moodus? How do we bring it back from the mess that was made of it in the 70s?
So in Moodus, we've been doing a lot of work, and I'm excited. I think one of the things that you have to understand is that if you take a look at Moodus, there is so much there. We have doctor's offices, we have dentist offices, we have the town hall, we have the senior center, we have restaurants, we have hair salons, we have the dry cleaners, we can have pizza at 2 different places, we've had 2 pharmacies at one time, our firehouse is there, our municipal office complex is there, everything is in Moodus. Moodus is our center, our town center. So what we've done in Moodus is we have created a better zoning, because when in the 70s what they did is they brought that strip mall in and created everything that was going to be on one floor. We've since changed that, and now we can do 2 and 3 floor buildings, which is going to be great because we can do some more housing, et cetera, et cetera. The other thing we're doing is we did a DOT highway study there, so we're going to do some traffic mitigation and slow the traffic down coming through Moodus on Falls Road, which is also 149. So we're going to be doing some things there. And then once we do that, we're actually right now writing the RFP for an engineering study so that we can take that information to grants and do a connectivity grant or a Safe Streets grant. And what that does is it makes it more pedestrian friendly, more cycle friendly. We're going to finish sidewalks. We did 1 section of sidewalk. I'm looking forward to doing more. We're going to do some lighting. We're going to do some benches. It's going to be great. And it is truly going to be a walkable village. And I'm so looking forward to continuing doing that work.
Tanya, you're in it.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing the results of this study. And I think it's great that we have sidewalks now in Moodus. But what we really need is better business opportunities. There's a lot of underutilized space in Moodus, so having a more walkable and bikeable center is a wonderful goal, but there have to be things there to walk or bike to, otherwise there's no point. Right now we have 250 feet of sidewalk that really don't go too far. So lighting and benches is not what is going to attract better business development. It's not what's going to attract younger residents. It's nice window dressing, but we need more.
Tanya answers the next question first. What are your top 3 priorities if elected?
My top 3 priorities, if elected, as I've said over, and I will continue to say, is number 1 is that we need to lower the tax burden on our residents. I believe 80 or 81% of our tax base right now is residential homeowners, and that is just, it's untenable and it's unfair to them. And the way we lower the tax burden is by diversifying the tax base, so that's my second priority, is to bring in responsible development that fits in the character of our town. It's been pointed out repeatedly that we have multitude of amenities here in town, cultural, historic, recreational. We really need to tap into that. We haven't done a great job of doing that, but if we could do that, we could make ourselves very attractive to ecotourism, for example, which I know a lot of people may not know, but Connecticut is 4th in the country in terms of per capita spending for ecotourism. Not, someplace out west. People in Connecticut they're on top 4 spending for ecotourism, hiking, biking, fishing, boating, all of those things that they can do right here in East Haddam. So if we could just tap into a small part of that $4 billion, East Haddam would be doing incredibly well. And that would help to preserve our town character as well, because we wouldn't be bringing in Walmart or Dollar General. We would be using what we have, leveraging the assets that are already here, that we already know and love, to attract more people to town to come and spend their money.
Yep, and for me, it would be Moodus, to continue the work at Moodus and make it a more attractive village, a more walkable, pedestrian-friendly village. And I think that once you put the pieces in place, the infrastructure in place, we will then increase business. People are moving their businesses to East Haddam, for example, Moodus Mud is moving in, if you didn't already know that. East Haddam Village, obviously, we have our redevelopment agency that's working diligently to try and make something happen there. So we want that development to happen. One of the things that we talk about rural character in East Haddam is that if we put the commerce and we put the development work in the villages that we already have, that's where they belong, that's where they've been. For hundreds of years, we've had nothing but commerce at East Haddam Village. That's where the boats were built, that's where the commerce happened, that's where the shipping happened. That's what we do in East Haddam Village. Same thing in Moodus. Those are the two areas that we can concentrate in and create some tax revenue. Tax revenue will offset the tax burden on the taxpayers of East Haddam. And obviously the third one would be public safety, to always increase that.
Have you go first for this question? My hand's up. Wow. How would you decrease the town's legal fees?
Yeah. Okay, sorry. Just looking for my notes, sorry. Our legal fees currently are a necessary thing that we have to have here in town. However, we have memberships with CCM, the Council of Governments, as well as costs, and it gives us the opportunity to share with other towns what they're doing and the kinds of things that they're dealing with. We can find out from them and we can use that knowledge. The other thing we do is any kind of legal opinion that we currently get or have gotten in the past for a particular issue is saved and cataloged so that we can go back to those opinions so that we don't have to continuously ask for the same opinion. So we save those opinions, we basically stockpile them because the world is cyclical, life is cyclical, and those things are going to come up again. So we make sure that that legal advice that we've already paid for is at our disposal. But at the same time, with unions, we have 5 different unions in the state of the town of East Haddam, and we also have labor laws that are changing constantly coming from Hartford. Those are the kinds of things that we need our legal opinions for. Also, when we're working with statutes such as the redevelopment agency, we need our legal opinions because we have to do the right thing by our taxpayers. So those legal opinions are important. But just so you know, our budget last year for legal fees was $63,000. We only spent $55,000. So we were under budget by $8,000. So we do our very best to not call for every question. But we need them, we need to make sure that we properly initiate and manage the town through the right legal means.
Tom?
So the best way to decrease the town's legal fees is, the first best way is to reduce the redundancies. We have multiple lawyers that work with various different boards and commissions in town. And so if we could solicit RFPs for contracted legal service and get that down to maybe 1 or 2, that would certainly decrease the town's legal fees. We could hire a proper HR person who works in normal hours and actually serves the needs of East Haddam. But the biggest way to decrease the legal fees is to reduce the amount of divisiveness. Divisiveness and discord is always going to increase your legal costs and legal issues.
Thank you. We have 10 out. I probably have time for one more question, but I want to end as we started, so I'm going to cut off the questions now. Before each candidate makes their closing statements, I'd like to thank each of them for their willingness to step up and run for public office. Public servitude is extremely rewarding work, however, it's not for those who have thin skin. Social media enables people to be much bolder than is ever likely face to face. I'd like to believe that those who run for office do so with a firm commitment to make East Haddam a better place, and I commend you all. Each candidate has 2 minutes for a closing statement. Irene had the floor first to start, so Tanya will go first. Okay, start at the top.
I would like to thank the chairs of the Democratic Town Committee and the Republican Town Committee. I'd like to thank Deb, our moderator, and Joe and Pete, our timekeepers, for facilitating this debate and making it possible. I'd actually like to thank Irene, my opponent, for participating so that you out there, the voters, have the opportunity to hear from both of us as we are your candidates. And I would like to thank you as the audience for taking the time out of your evening to come and listen to what we have to say. I'm going to close by saying the common theme in all the challenges presently facing East Haddam is that our current leadership has rushed to conclusions, has made rash determinations, has not been responsive to the will of the people, has not sought collaborative solutions, and lacks long-term vision. Making uninformed and hasty decisions without transparency can only ever lead to disputes and dissension. I will always work to find the best outcomes for the town, not settle for the easiest or the quickest. I will heed the input of the townspeople, and I will make sure that the processes are open and information is accessible. And most importantly, I will be dedicated to East Haddam 100% full-time, because I am full-time.
Irene, you had the floor for the last time this evening.
Okay, well, again, I agree with Tanya. Thank you so much for everybody. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. Thank you to our AV people here at the high school. We appreciate your efforts as well to make sure that this come out, and I believe the DTC will be taping this tonight, so if any of you want to see it, or if you don't know somebody who hasn't been able to come out, feel free to contact the DTC, and they'll have it available for you at some point. You'll have to check with them as to when that's going to happen. East Haddam's rural character is a treasured aspect of our community, and my family and I have proudly called this town our home for the last 27 years. And we have seen our 2 daughters grow and thrive here. But the true strength of this town lies in the people, its people, the creativity, the resilience, and the compassion. I am deeply honored to have served as your first selectwoman for the past 2 years, and I humbly ask you for your vote this November. I am committed to working tirelessly on your behalf, preserving our heritage, addressing our current needs, and safeguarding our future. I know together we can continue to make East Haddam a place we're all proud to call our home. Thank you.
To all of you who came out tonight, all of us here on stage applaud you for your respectfulness and interest. I'd like to remind everyone that absentee ballots are available through the town clerk's office if you may not be able to make it to the polls on election day. Now let's have a big round of applause for our